can you quickly tell us about what dynamic pricing is for restaurants? And then secondly, maybe tell us a little bit about the startup you're having and what you're trying to achieve with the business.
Sure. Well, dynamic pricing is nothing particularly new, quite honestly, Carl, because we've all experiencing it right today through airlines, through hotels. If you and I were to book a flight from the same departure airport to the same destination airport, we would and book them at different times, we would likely pay a different fee. And so in that sense, what we're advocating for restaurants here, given the fact that restaurants have a particularly low margin environment to play in, is to be able to say, well, why couldn't this work for restaurants as well? In fact, in a way, you could argue the happy hour is a form of dynamic pricing today. Yes, it's a certain period of time, low volume, low traffic, where restaurants charge a much lower price point for a certain set of items to be able to drive either a higher basket value, a higher tray value, or perhaps some traffic volume to the location. So with that in mind, the same could be true of the busiest times. Meredith and I write in nationsrestaurantnews.com, and last June we put an article out about throttling. And throttling is a term that a lot of restaurants are using to turn off their third-party marketplaces when their kitchen becomes too busy. For all intents and purposes, Carl, they're shutting their virtual front doors to customers that potentially want to buy from them. And that's crazy. Now, what would I think? How does dynamic pricing play into this? Well, if you were to perhaps charge an extra 50 pence or cents on top of your item on a Friday night at 7 p.m., that might preclude a few value-orientated customers from choosing to purchase from you, but at least it keeps your doors open. Are
Absolutely.
People going to be able to be willing to do that? I would argue, yes. This isn't surge pricing. We're not trying to advocate for surge pricing that you might be more familiar with the likes of Uber, for example, because this is about small incremental changes of price based on a number of different factors. The demand, as I've just mentioned, but also things like weather. When it's rainy outside, are you going to get a higher proportion of customers ordering food delivery? When there's a particular big game on, we have the World Cup playing right now, for example. And so can you imagine, what have we just had? The French game, haven't we, just been played out on the television? Imagine everyone's at home watching that. So therefore, I bet food delivery in France right now has been going through the roof. Is that a chance to sell a little bit, items a little higher because the demand is there? So with all that said, juicerpricing.com, my co-founders and I are trying to help bring this technology to restaurants. And my co-founders have all come from the travel and hospitality sector. And so they've seen it. They've built businesses like this for those sectors. So they know the journey that hotels and airlines have gone on, and they see the same parallels with restaurants. It's for sure going to take a period of time. This isn't something that entry-level restaurants should get involved in, because some of the components that we talked about earlier in terms of digital marketing and the understanding of how to build that first-party channel is definitely a priority in my mind before things like dynamic pricing. But dynamic pricing, I think, is going to be something that is going to be more common than it is rare in the years ahead. And what we're trying to do is build the interface and, more importantly, build the algorithm that allows restaurants to be able to do this without any huge amount of work on their behalf. Because the algorithm is really the artificial intelligence, if you will, to basically make the right decisions based on the data. And as we know right now, restaurants are washed with so much data, they don't know what to do with it. And so we're trying to basically build this algorithm that's going to help restaurants have a far better ability to price their menus in a more dynamic fashion every day of the week, every day of the year.